22 trillion can't be laughed at. And we're no longer a niche market. We're a huge part of the market. I have an understanding that by 2040, I understand that women are going to control 2/3 of all investable assets in the United States.
Welcome to She Invests. Join us every week for conversations focused on the growing number of female angel investors, the real unicorns. You'll hear from existing female angel investors, VCs, and fund managers on their investment thesis. From deal flow to exits, they will share the best practices that contribute to their success. Female angel investors will be equipped with the tools and resources to confidently activate their capital in order to make an impact in their community and the global economy. With your host, active angel investor and founder of Hera Angels, Dr. Sylvia Ma.
We are so excited today to have Carolyn Leonard part of the She Invest podcast. I have had the wonderful pleasure of meeting her while she came out to our Hera Venture Summit this year in 2017. And Carolyn is just an amazing woman. She is a pioneer, let me tell you, because she's coming from a place that a lot of us are just like, wow, this is so great. It was the options exchange, Chicago Board Options Exchange, and she just kind of carved her own way. She has a wonderful story, so I'm not going to steal your thunder here, but amazing financial guru, financial woman who has just made an amazing mark on her life and has gone through just so much of building bridges with others, but also fighting down those barriers that we've always heard about. Pioneer is your word, right, Carolyn? She also, has also created in this time of her life a platform and an opportunity for female angel investors and startups to really connect with her. And it's called DyMynd and DyMynd Angels. And I just love the work that she does there, with so much experience that she has in her varied, life as a professional woman, that she brings that to the table. And we are just honored to have you part of the show. Hi, Carolyn.
Hi, Sylvia. Thank you for that fabulous introduction. I'm impressed with myself. That was awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate being here today and chatting with you. Thank you.
Wonderful. I want to go back to, that time. You have your bio here. It says here, you remember the April morning in the late 1970s, and you were, trading, and something happened, and you really realized that you are going to make the mark in your world. Can you talk about that? Because that's such a great story.
I'd be happy to. Yeah. In fact, it was 1976, and it was a Monday morning, or 1977 was the year, pardon me. The overall market had been down day after day after day. And I came in on this Monday morning, and as I descended the stairs onto the trading floor, my pit was about 25 feet away from the top of the stairs. And I looked, and the size of the pit on a normal day had 30, 35 traders and floor brokers and exchange employees in it. And this day, the crowd had swelled to be about 70 or 80 people. And as I approached the pit, two of the other traders that traded 3M with me came running up to me, and they said, there's an imbalance of buy in 3M. The opening is going to really be big. And are you with us? And I had been trading for 6 months, and I knew, because I had faced the obstacles of men not wanting to trade with me because I was a woman. And they were very nice. They'd say to me, sweetheart, don't take it personally, but we've never traded with a woman, and we're not trading with you. And because they worked for themselves, they could do it. And there was no authority you could go to and say, gee, I'm being discriminated against. But on this day, the two guys that wanted me to trade 3M because it was very illiquid allowed me to participate in all the trades. And if I knew that I had to say yes, that I would assume all the risk right next to you guys. And that's exactly what I did. And the stock on Friday had closed at $44. It opened that Monday morning at $52. The specialist in New York was extremely experienced, so he gave himself a wide edge. And we opened the options. There were literally tens of thousands of options to buy on the opening, and not one sell order. So there I stood in the pit, 6 months experience selling thousands of options, the equivalent of probably about 150 to 200,000 shares of stock that I was short on the opening. The specialist, being as experienced as he was, understood that sellers would come into the market, which gratefully they did. And at the end of the morning, when I started counting everything up, I was pretty flat and neutral. At the end of the day, with trading cards bulging from all my pockets, I knew that day I was in business to stay. At the end of the day, my trading account had quintupled. At the end of the week, I now had a 6-figure trading account. And the guys after that day began to call me Carolyn Jean, the option queen. It was risk that I was willing to take. I can't say that I wasn't extremely nervous at the time. I saw my house being taken away and everything else. But at a certain point in every woman's career, she has to stake her flag in the ground, plant it there, and you have to assume certain risks in your career if you really want to get where you want to go.
That's amazing, to have that experience and know that you made it that day. You're like, okay, I got this, and this is my contribution to the world. At that time, you probably didn't think that, but you're like, I made it. I made it. But in retrospect, that was a huge day for you.
Yeah, it was, and because at that time women just didn't trade, I won as a woman respect, and in winning respect for myself, gave other women a certain degree of respect because and did exactly what the guys did. And I didn't blink, and I didn't get sick, and I didn't cry. And I suspected some of the guys were watching to see if that would happen, but I didn't. Hey, this was business, and business had to get done. And I think that, when women come up to the plate and we have a mindset of toughness, we make it happen and we make it work for ourselves.
How long were you there? How many years did that, options queen reign last?
Well, I reigned for 21 years.
Oh my goodness.
And by the way, over the years, I became very, very friendly. And to this day, I'm still friends with a lot of the guys that initially just didn't want to trade with me because I was a woman. They wanted it to stay the way it had always been. And my coming on the floor was, nobody likes change. And I was the face of change and diversity.
Yeah. And now you're friends with him.
Yes, I am. And the guys are great. It was part of the times.
Oh yeah. And that bias was there at that time. I know now it's better at that time. And did you mentor any of the new ladies that were coming through?
I mentored a lot of young women that would come down on the floor. And what was really interesting is that over the years, a lot of the guys that owned trading floors or were extremely successful traders during the summer, they wanted their daughters to be exposed to trading and understand that this could be a career possibility for them. And a lot of the men would say to me, do you mind if my daughter stands next to you and clerks for you over the summer so she gets the experience? So, and that one of the reasons they would do this is because as a woman, I was very protective of these younger women because it was always a male-dominated environment. And I mentored them and helped them understand what it's like to be a woman in a man's world, and that it's okay to stand up for yourself and to tell people when they're doing something inappropriate that is inappropriate. And I really enjoy mentoring women. I think that we all have to do it. And by the way, for every woman I mentored, I learned a lot from them.
That's what happens, when we mentor the next generation. We've paved the way so many, in XYZ areas that we thought were important, but they're also paving the way as well in what's important to them.
Yeah, and their value system was different, and it was a great experience.
Yes, and talk to me a little bit about that pink trading jacket. That I want to know that story. That just intrigues me.
Well, all the guys had all these wild, not attractive colors, but dark blue, dark green, orange jackets. And you wore them all day long to trade. You had to have a trading jacket on, and your trading jacket, by and large, was by the color. People knew what house cleared your trades. That was one of the reasons why they were different colors for everybody. But I decided as a woman that a cotton candy pink trading jacket would help me stand out in that sea of all the dark green and the navy blues and everything. And I felt that by having a different color trading jacket than anybody on the floor, that I would have fewer out trades, and that was good for business. And so I ordered myself a bunch of pink trading jackets, and I wore them for years, and nobody gave me any flack about my trading jacket. And believe me, it really helped me in terms of standing out in the crowd, because I traded in the end for 11 years in one of the busiest crowds on any trading floor in the country at that time. On a busy day, there could be 800 people in this pit. And so having that pink jacket it gave me an edge. And none of the guys wanted to wear a pink jacket. It was just me.
Imagine that.
Like something could happen to their masculinity if they did. I don't know.
But that also kind of, brings up comments that we hear all the time, is that how do you stand out as a woman? And using the assets that we have, that we can wear pink and it's not kind of weird. We can wear pink. That actually allows us to stand out. But sometimes we don't want to use that because we're like, oh, that's bad. What do you think about that? Do you think that people should say, this is who I am as a woman? And what are those aspects that we can, leverage?
Sylvia, I have always thought that I had a huge advantage to being a woman once I gained the respect. I knew early on that I could be a first-rate woman, but I was only going to be a second-rate guy if I tried to be like one of the boys. So I have always maintained that being a woman was a distinct advantage. I always wore 3 to 4 inch spikes. I wore dresses all the time. And I know I gained respect because I owned who I was. And no matter how hard I could have wanted to try, I could never be one of the guys, nor would I be accepted. So I became more of who I was, and I used being a woman to my advantage. And it really works in a work environment when you're true to who you really are. And I think it's very difficult for women when they try to play the guys' game and be accepted based on being one of the boys. I just don't think we, at least in my time, and while I was in the business world, that just didn't work for me.
And what were the other things that you did? We know about the jacket. We know about the high heels. What are the other things that you thought, looking back, were those things that you owned that said, yes, I can actually use this to my benefit?
Being a woman, one of the things I did use to my benefit was fashion and style. And I think there's power in, and I'm not talking about sexually, but there's power in how you dress. And how you dress sends a message. So I always dressed very femininely, but in my head, I never thought of what I had on as being girly or feminine. In the morning when I got dressed in power clothes in my head, and I went to work in my armor. And but in dressing like a woman and looking feminine, what would happen is that men would come up to me and they would say to me, I heard you had a beautiful dress on today. And they would be talking to me. And because they were talking to me and they had come into the pit, they had business in their hand. So because they were trying to figure out what it was that I had on that day that was different, and in talking to me, they started to do business with me. So I found that by being a woman and being fashionable, that I could use that in a very safe way to attract business to me. And I did. And it really worked.
That's awesome. I love that, and definitely that power stance, that power clothes, definitely is not just when you were in the pit, but nowadays as well, is really having that power position really allows people to come to you and say, okay, how do I get what you have, or how do we do business together?
Right, and part of it is a mental attitude too. When you dress, for me it was a role. I knew that I had to go toe to toe. Trading is extremely competitive. Part of my strategy was making sure that I presented a certain image, and I branded myself that way.
I think that presenting yourself in a power position to on the outside, it gives them a parallel to what you are on the inside, in the sense of that you are power businesswoman ready to make powerful decisions.
Yes, absolutely. And I think as a woman that it's important that we make thoughtful decisions, but that we do it from a position of strength and not of going back and forth of, oh, on one hand and then on the other hand. I think we need to be more definitive. And as a woman, I understand that I'm going to make mistakes, but you know what? I'm going to fix them too.
I love that. Wonderful. It's so relevant now as well. Let's go into also, that like you in that day, you're pioneering now as well. We know that fortunes have changed for American women. We have more control over the money here in the United States. Can we comment about that a little bit? Because I know that you're really inundated in that, and would love to know about your 2 cents on that part of the American position that we're in.
Yeah, well, I think American women today are extremely fortunate because by 2020, we are going to control $22 trillion of investable assets. I mean, that's a huge advantage for women. It gives us, the ability to vote our purses. I mean, 22 trillion can't be laughed at. And we're no longer a niche market. We're a huge part of the market. I have an understanding that by 2040, I understand that women are going to control 2/3 of all investable assets in the United States. You look at women today, and more women than men are graduating from universities, and they're getting more advanced degrees and professional degrees. I mean, I can't tell you how proud I am, because I really feel that we're emerging into the age of women becoming much more equal in all aspects of society. And, I think for a lot of women, they don't understand how much power they really do, and how they can use their money for good, how they can vote their money in terms of, tobacco kills. Okay. You don't have to invest in Philip Morris or Altria or any of the tobacco stocks. You don't need to own guns if that's one of your value systems, and gun stocks. I mean, and I think we can make a difference in how society looks at us, and we can in a positive way impact through the money we have. I mean, social responsible investing. There isn't a woman that doesn't want to be part of that.
One of the things that we talk about a lot too is that social impact investing is not just angel investing. I know that you are an angel investor and, of course, know the stock market very well. We were just talking about it in one of the summits that I was at for Angel Capital Association, is that, we can't just say angel investing is this, and we're going to be socially responsible here. And in the other markets of, the stock market, we're not. So I really like how you bring that up. And how can a woman really be more socially responsible in their stock market portfolio?
Well, fortunately, because the industry itself is looking for other areas besides the Dow stocks, and the industry is becoming much more sensitive to the fact that as Americans, we are concerned about the environment. We are concerned about health issues. We are concerned about a lot of things. So there are ETFs, there are funds. Sally Krashek with Elevate has her fund. Hacks has a fund that I love. It invests in companies that have 30% of their board of directors as women. I think the diversity for companies having women on their corporate boards and in the C-suite makes for much more profitable companies, and I think they're great investments. So I think there's a lot of changes coming our way, and I'm very, very excited to see how they all play out.
I love that because to have a concrete way of diversifying your portfolio and also making a good social impact, I don't think that was around a long time ago. Now it's when we see that rising tide of options like that.
Yes, you're absolutely right, and I think it comes out of the emergence of women because we have a different value system when it comes to investing. And I mean, I know so many women that we do the roundtable discussions called Dough and Donuts with Millenniums or Money and Merlot. And when we talk to women about what they want to see in their portfolio and what's a deal breaker for them, for an awful lot of women, having tobacco or having guns or a company that is a known polluter is something that they really feel that if that's in my portfolio, you don't get me as a financial advisor because that's against my value system. And I don't want my money invested in that.
Exactly. And what is your investment thesis then? What are your deal breakers?
Like most women, I believe that I have to vote my values. And so I'm much more conscious about the companies that have women in the C-suite. And, just recently, Mayor Bloomberg in New York, has a 30% club. I was talking to one of our clients at Citigroup, and she proudly displayed that Citigroup now is part of the 30% club, which is that 30% of the board of directors is made up of women. And so for me, I always look at who's on the board and what companies are advancing women, because as a woman, I feel that that's how I get to vote my money.
So a woman on the board, definitely. Any other social markers that you look at?
Yeah, I as much as Philip Morris pays a nice dividend, I won't own it. Because I think that it's important that we take these stands, that there are certain things that as a member of society, attractive as that dividend may be, I just don't want to support that, and I don't want it in my portfolio. So I take a look at companies that are in the tobacco industry, the gun industry. I won't own any stocks in that industry. And it changes with the times too.
Wonderful. And then that kind of has a great foray into what DyMynd is all about. So can you walk us through how you created DyMynd and what's it all about?
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you for asking me, Sylvia. DyMynd is a financial empowerment firm for women, and it came about after the market crash in 2008 and 9. I have a lot of friends who are very successful businesswomen and built up big companies, and they came to me in early 2009 with literally bankers' boxes of statements, and those statements weren't for a year or anything like that. They were like 3 to 4 months, and the reason they were boxes is because they didn't have one trusted financial advisor. I thought to myself, if these women can't find the right financial advisor and they're this affluent, what is the rest of society doing? So I, as a woman, decided that it's really important for us to figure out how we can better match women with financial advisors so that they would have the right relationship and they could build up a relationship where they trusted the advisor. Because as we know, women tend to be in cash much more than men. And being in cash for women is a losing proposition because of inflation. My thing was, and it still is, that how do we build a relationship of trust between the investor and the advisor? And so we created an assessment very similar to a dating app like Match.com, and the assessment better matched financial advisors with their female clients. Interestingly enough, one of the women who worked on it is now working with NASA and she is putting the team for the Mars mission together with a matching algorithm.
Amazing.
And, yeah. So I looked and I said, we got a pretty good matching algorithm, but the industry at that point in time really wasn't interested in matching people because of the fact that advisors were concerned that if somebody on their team better matched with one of their good clients, they would lose them. So we couldn't sell that in. So we had a pivot, and our pivot became one where we went back to doing research. And what we found out in talking to women was that overwhelmingly women have issues with emotional financial security. And there are three parts to emotional financial security. And one of them is that most women fear outliving their money and have an inner bag, ladies. So we took a look and we created the assessment that would help measure that. We also knew that how a woman grew up or the past impacted her present decisions. And I'll give you an example. We recently worked with a woman who is with one of the big 3 consulting firms, and it's at 60 years of age, you have to retire. And she's an equity partner, and she's going to exit with a very large chunk of money. She came from a very poor family, and literally in talking to her, she would start to cry when she would talk about the fact that she wouldn't have a job and that she feared that very shortly after leaving her job that she would be homeless. And she immediately went back to the past. And she just felt that she wasn't working and saving, and obviously she would be poor and homeless. So we know that past, present, and future plays into women and their feelings about money. And then we also know that her values become very, very important, and that women carry what we call a care network. And a care network is all those people that when you think of your money, you think that, oh, well, my brother's daughter is going to college. I may have to help her. We think about our parents and are they going to be okay, or are they going to need some medical assistance? So when we think about money, we think about it in terms of a much larger group than men do. And this impacts how women make financial decisions. So having built out emotional financial security, we went back to the market and we started talking to firms about a woman's emotional financial security and how it impacts decision making. And the industry was very fascinated by it. And we've been able to make some headway within the industry with their female clients and help them change the conversation they're having with women to be much more inclusive of her point of view.
Definitely fascinating, because you work with the banks and the organizations that have women who are investing, correct?
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
And can a woman kind of reach out to you and find out these, the assessment and work with you?
We don't really work with individual women, but we're very happy to have them take the assessment. And the assessment will give them some information on themselves. And in fact, it's really interesting because we do presentations and we have women who on their cell phone, because you can take the assessment on your cell phone, carry it around with them. And so when they go in and they're talking about themselves to their advisors, they bring up their assessment and they say, see, it says here, and they reiterate what they understand about themselves when it comes to their money. And we just want to empower women to better understand who they are, be able to look at money as an asset and as a power base. And we strongly encourage every single woman when she's talking to bankers or financial institutions to understand she's the customer and this is her conversation, and that she owns that conversation, and that what she has to say and the information she wants should be readily available to her, and she should be respected. Most women sitting across from bankers or advisors don't feel that they're in a position of power. They feel they're being talked down to.
Definitely have felt that before myself. The survey, the survey, I'm looking at your site right now. So the survey is like, what's your financial personality survey?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So that's really easy. It's on www.DyMynd.com. So just wanted to put it out there because that's such a great resource for people to, women to be able to get that personality and get that set of parameters that makes them who they are, and that decision-making process is easier for them.
Right. And it's also important for women to understand that we've all got money messages from our childhood, and that until we resolve some of them, we really don't make healthy money decisions for ourselves.
That's exactly true. And I'm looking at the website even more, that you really want to educate more women about angel investing as well.
Absolutely. We know that women support other women. Why not support them in their desires and passions to solve problems and create companies and jobs?
Yeah, so you as DyMynd Angels, you are a group of female angel investors that invest in female founders?
Yep.
How's that going?
We launched with the 1920 campaign because 1920 was the year white women in America got the right to vote. During the Civil Rights Act in 1965, other minority groups got the right to vote. What we're doing is asking 1,920 women around the country to donate $1,000. It's a contribution. It will go into the DyMynd Angel Fund, which will turn around and invest in 20 female-led startups in Chicago and the Midwest. We're the only female-focused angel group in Chicago. I saw your map when I was at the HERA conference. I took a photograph of it, came back to Chicago and showed all these women. I said, can you imagine smack dab in the middle of the country, Chicago doesn't have other female angel groups? And Chicago has the largest percentage of female entrepreneurs of any place in the country. And we get $2.90 for every 100 a man gets. That's got to stop.
Where do the female founders actually get their funding in Chicago, since they're really doing really great? How is that Chicago ecosystem supporting the female founders?
We're pretty much building out the ecosystem at DyMynd ourselves, because what we're doing is, we know from all the research that people invest in people that look like themselves. And so we know VCs and angels tend to be overwhelmingly men. And so in Chicago, what we're doing is we're holding twice a month different events where we invite female founders and future female funders to get together. We do a panel discussion where the women founders will talk about their product or what they're creating, their services. And the future female funder is there. And these women that come that aren't the entrepreneurs, but the future funder are just blown away at what these women are doing and the opportunities they're creating to grow businesses and to employ others. And so we're hoping that by building an ecosystem, then launching a boot camp and doing quarterly boot camps, that we can begin to grow through our network enough female future investors to support the female founders here. Right now, they're really, really struggling. I have a very close friend who's she is an African-American woman, very successful, exited 2 big businesses, sold them, has started another company, which is a data analytics company. She has got revenue. She's trying to raise $1.5 million. She has raised $1 million. In raising that $1 million, she is the 15th African-American woman, since we've been keeping statistics on women and funding, to be funded to the tune of $1 million. And this woman has a track record. She's experienced. She's a board member of Fortune 100 companies, and she's struggling. If she's struggling, can you imagine how hard it is for a 25-year-old who doesn't have that network to raise money? It's impossible. don't even get me started.
I know. I'm going down that route too. I'm like, okay, girl, let's talk about it for another hour. No, just kidding. It is true because, and I think that you are a pioneer. You're thinking pioneer, like you're saying, you know what, no matter what, we're going to break through this. And even just talking about her and saying, look, she needs help and we need to get a new group of ladies here that support each other. That is so, so, so important. And it feels like sometimes it's like an uphill battle of saying, okay, I want to do something for Chicago. Well, that is so important because if you don't do it, then this woman that you're talking to and others will not have the opportunity to get funding.
Absolutely. And I mean, I've been patient and wanting men to step up to the table and do this, but they're just not doing it. And so we have got to do it. And because we as women have money, we have the ability to collectively pool our money and make a difference. And that's what we're trying to do. And with DyMynd Angels, we want it to be a perpetual fund or an evergreen fund. And what we're hoping is that in raising this $2 million around, that as we invest in these women and these women exit successfully, we will put the money right back in and invest in the next generation of female founders. And I think that it's very, very doable. It just is going to take it's going to take some effort and some press to get the word out there. But I think for every woman, investing in another woman is very important.
So if there's a woman listening right now and she says, look, I'm in X city, what would you tell her to start doing to create her own, let's say, network of female angels?
The first thing I would tell her to do, because one of the things, and I know you know this, is that after women go through the boot camps and become educated, it still takes them 9 to 18 months before they pull the trigger, because we tend to be more concerned about making a mistake. And so it takes more time for us to build our confidence. So the first thing I would say is take a look. You run a boot camp, don't you, Sylvia?
Yes, we do.
Yes, I would say, take a look at your boot camp. Take a look. We'll be running one in April, but get yourself a little education, because the first step to becoming confident is to feel that you have knowledge and you're empowered. And then I think that they can do what we did. I don't think there's any magic in what we're doing in terms of building an ecosystem and an environment to do this. And you bring your friends along and say, hey, this is something really important. I don't know. I've always been somebody that has decided that you just take the first step on the path. And it's amazing how you keep on following one step after another, and you wind up having something that's really working and having impact and is successful.
I think also your passion, when somebody sees you and talks to you and you say, honestly, this is what I'm passionate about. And this is what my values are. They said, I want to be in back of her.
Yeah, I think you're right. And that's why I admire you.
Thank you. But I think that's something that is important for that woman who might have invested a couple of investments and it doesn't matter if you've invested in a female startup or not. Does not matter. But you're seeing that there's a rising tide of all of us doing this. There's a rising tide of us taking ownership of our financial decisions and saying, okay, I'm going to put a stake in the ground, like you said at the very beginning in that pit. You put a stake in the ground and you say, this is what we're going to do, and this is important to me. Who's on board?
Yep. Yeah. And it's amazing. That's leadership. And it's amazing that once you start doing it, that you do find people that want to support that. And this is the problem of helping female founders or female entrepreneurs is a collective effort that all of us have to be invested in. And we can start small, but we just have to start.
Exactly. Lesson from both of us is that start something small if it is small, but know that it's going to get a lot bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the goal. Got to dream big.
Exactly. But have smaller goals that you can actually get things done. So that's one thing that what you're doing is amazing with, look at the website, angel access hours, you have seminars, and all sorts of wonderful things that women can get connected with you.
Yes, absolutely. I just think that the time is today. It's ripe. We're in a climate. Empowering women around their money is vitally important. Everything that's happening around us today just points to the fact that things are changing for women. And I think it's a real good time for us.
I think it's an excellent time for us. And in that, I wanted to end with my rapid fire final 4 questions that I asked everybody who comes to the show, because it's just so important to kind of figure out, what everybody is all about. So number 1 is, what's your favorite angel investing resource?
Well, I use the internet, and I'm always reading articles. I'm using the internet. I network. It's getting to know women like you, going to any event in Chicago or other parts around the country where I can get exposure to angel investing, to other networks, to other women. I just want to learn as much as I can about the space.
That's really important, because I think also our data, because everything's moving so fast, that is such a great piece of advice to actually get out there and do it, because we're moving up, and the time is now. So really getting that exposure is so important. So I love that. Thank you for reminding us about that. Number 2, what's your favorite book?
Oh my God, that is so hard. I just recently read a book that I love because it's so pertinent to this time. It's Bill Broder's book. It's on Russia, and all of a sudden the title escapes me, but it goes to the Magnitsky Act, and I love it because the man took a moral stand and staked his reputation and fought the U.S. government to get this act in place. And that's what today politically the Trump administration and Putin are fighting against, is the Magnitsky Act. So Red Notice is the name of the book. It just came to me, and I love the book, and I'm recommending it to everyone.
I love that. My mom would love to read that book. She's a historian and history buff. So thank you for that. Who has been a major influence in your life?
My mother. And my mother, because she believed in me. And I think that everybody needs somebody that believes in you. And it was a very powerful voice for me growing up to hear my mother say, you can do it. There's nothing you can't do. Just go out and do it. So I have to say my mom.
That is beautiful. 4, what does abundance mindset mean to you?
It doesn't mean money. An abundance mindset means, to me, it means having wonderful relationships. It's having the right people in the right place in your life. It's about living a life that I feel, for me, I am so fortunate to be able to live, that I have the opportunity to be a woman in a country where there are no restrictions on me. The only restrictions that happen to me are the ones in my mind that I put on myself. So abundance is the ability to do what I dream of and I want to do.
That is also beautiful. Thank you so much. I have enjoyed every second of our conversation. Thank you so much, Carolyn, for being part of the show and being part of this just amazing uprising of female angel investors who want to invest and support female entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. You got me there, girl.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
If you want to be inspired to be the most efficient and awesome female angel investor and investor in the stock market, you've got to listen to this podcast segment with Carolyn Leonard, who founded DyMynd, Angels and DyMynd Solutions. She really wants to empower the next generation of female angels and female investors due to her amazing career as a stockbroker and options queen. You got to listen to that story. Carolyn walks us through how to really grow a angel group. She's growing it in Chicago. So really great. Get it done. Get things accomplished. Create events. connect with your network so that you can grow your angel group in the area that you are, geographical area that you are. And then the second huge lesson that I learned from Carolyn is that you can do it, girl. You can do it. Be that positive, powerful woman that you are. Inwards and outwards, we talked about fashion, about power fashion, getting up in the morning when she was in her younger career as a stockbroker, and how she dressed to be powerful that day. And how she dressed is when people came up to her and said, hey, how do I, great dress that you have on, or great power suit that you have on. And then they started conversations about business. She really challenges us to think about the inward and outward appearance of your power presence as a woman. So it was wonderful to have Carolyn Leonard, CEO and founder of DyMynd, on the She Invest podcast.
Thank you for listening to and subscribing to the She Invest podcast. Go on over to sheinvest.com for the full show notes for this episode, as well as any resources, websites, and opportunities mentioned during the show. Sign up for the sheinvest.com newsletter to learn about events like our annual Hera Venture Summit during the month of September and our She Invests monthly investor circles. Thank you for your time, talent, and treasure.